Hello and welcome to my channel. This is part 2 of my switchable 2-in-1 flower bag. In part 1 I showed you how to crochet the solid base bag, and in this video I'll be showing you how to create the outer mesh flower bag. While designing this I wanted it to be super customizable, so I'll actually be showing you 2 different versions of the flowers. I'll be creating version 2 in this tutorial, but the flowers are arranged and attached in the same way for both. You can use as many or as few colors as you want for your bag. I'd recommend using a lightweight yarn for this project, so keep in mind that any substitutions could result in a different size. In the first part of this tutorial I'll show you how to make the flowers, and then in the second part I will show you how to arrange them in their rows. Flower A consists of a middle and petals that are crocheted separately, and so you can use as many colors as you want, but go ahead and make a slip knot so we can begin making the center. Alright, and so we're going to start by chaining 6. And now you're going to insert your hook under both loops of the first chain and slip stitch into it. And now we're not going to chain 1, we are just going to make 6 very loose single crochets. And we're going to work them into the circle. And pop a stitch marker in the first one so you don't lose your spot. And so you're going to space them out and use a very loose tension when you're doing this. You want them to go all the way around without shrinking the circle too much. And we're doing it this way because we want there to be a nice little hole that we'll be able to peek into to see the bag behind it. And so I've done my 6 single crochets, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the first one. And I'm going to make this slip stitch nice and tight because we want to draw our first and last single crochets closer together. And then chain 1 and fasten off. And now we're going to make a slip knot with our petal color and pop that on your hook and grab our center that we made. If we look closely at this ring, this was the last one that I made, this was the slip stitch and where I fastened off, and this was the first single crochet. And so pop your hook into the last single crochet that we made and make a slip stitch. And now you're going to chain 11 and we're going to slip stitch into the same spot. Now we're going to skip the slip stitch and slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. And again, make this one nice and tight so we can bring those stitches closer together, and repeat from before. We're going to chain 11 and slip stitch back into the same spot. And so that's how it's looking so far. You're going to repeat that 4 more times until we meet back over here where we will slip stitch into the first one, and that's the flower. But so go ahead and repeat 4 more times and I will see you at the end. Alrighty, there are my 6 petals completed, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch where these other slip stitches are. And now just go ahead and chain 1 and fasten off. And so there is flower A all finished, and next I'll show you how to make flower B. Flower B is very simple. It consists of chains and slip stitches. So pop a slip knot on your hook and begin by chaining 12. You want your first chain to be fairly loose, not super duper tight. Alrighty, and so here are my 12 chains. Each petal is made out of 11 chains, and so we're going to flip our chain over so we're looking at the back, and we're going to slip stitch into the 11th chain from our hook, second from the bottom, into the back bump. And just make a slip stitch. And so there's our first petal, and at the end of every petal we're going to make 1 more slip stitch into this very first chain that we made. And so go ahead and make your slip stitch, and then I would recommend, until you're more used to it, putting a stitch marker into that first chain, because it can begin to look a little confusing once you've added a few more petals on. And so now we need to make 5 more petals, and you're going to chain 11. You're going to slip stitch to the first chain, and when you flip it over to find it, it is the very bottom loop of all these back bumps. It is the very bottom one. So slip stitch into the back bump of the first chain, and then find that first chain again where your stitch marker is and slip stitch in there. And so now you're going to do that 4 more times, chaining 11, slip stitching to the first one of your 11, and then slip stitching into the very first chain that is the center of our flower now. Making my slip stitch, and then the final one in the center. And now I'm just going to chain one and fasten off. And so now you can go ahead and take your stitch marker out, and that is flower B. So here are the flower options. As you can tell with flower A, there's a little bit more room for creativity and playing around with colors. Version B, it is just so quick and easy and so stinking cute. And with version A, you're going to have 4 ends to weave in versus 2 for flower B. So there's pros and cons, and it is totally up to you and your personal preference. But for both flowers, every petal consists of 11 stitches, working it back into the center. And so as we're constructing the bag, the instructions are the exact same. We'll be assembling this bag flower by flower, working each column from top to bottom and from left to right. The first column is 4 flowers long, the second is 3, and we will alternate those until we have 7 columns. And when we make the 8th column, we will attach both sides together to form a tube. In row 1, we'll be connecting the flowers with 2 petals directly above and below each other. Every flower is going to have 1 petal free off to the side, except for the top and bottom, which are going to have 4 petals free, 2 on the top and bottom and 1 on each side. You're going to begin each flower of this row by making 4 petals and then connecting the last 2 to the ones above it. Row 1 begins with 1 fully made flower with all 6 petals. That is the first one on the very top. Your second flower, make 4 petals, and then come back to this video and I will explain how to attach them. To attach the petals, you're going to do this the same way every time. You're going to chain 5. So there's my 5, and now you're going to remove your hook. Take your previous flower that you're attaching to, and I'm going to be attaching to these 2 bottom petals. You're going to insert your hook into the petal from the top to the bottom, reinsert your hook into the loop of flower 2, and then pull that loop through the petal, and then just make a chain. And so that is chain 6, and you're going to chain 5 more for 11. So there's my 11, and now I am just going to finish this petal off as normal, and then I am going to repeat that and attach to the petal next to the one I just attached to. So I'm chaining 5, taking out my hook, inserting it from top to bottom of the petal I want to attach it to, reinserting my hook into the loop, and finishing my 11 chains. So that is 6, 11, and then I'm going to again finish it as normal. And now this flower is done, so I'm going to chain 1 and fasten off. I have my 2 petals connected, and so now I'm going to repeat that 2 more times, making a flower with 4 petals and then attaching the last 2 to the 2 petals that will be directly above it. And that is row 1 with our 4 flowers. Let's do row 2. For row 2 or column 2, we are going to be making 3 flowers. Something important to know going forward is that every flower is going to be connected to a flower next to it 2 times. And so if we look at this flower and these around it, for example, the purple is connected to 2 of these pink petals, and then this purple adjacent to it, it is connected to 2 petals, and then the pink below it, again, is connected to 2 of the petals. And then all of these petals on the inside, let's take this pink petal right here, for example, it has 2 petals connected to it. Again, we can see that here has 2 petals. There are 3 petals all connecting to each other. And so as you're making this bag, if you ever get a little tripped up, just look and think, all right, I've connected to this petal right here, I need to connect to 1 more. And then once I've connected to this petal, that means I'm connected to this petal already, and I just need to connect to 1 more before I move on to the next one, where, oh, I've already been connected here, I just need to connect 1 more time. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated, and I will try to explain it a little bit better as we go, but let's start column 2. For the first flower of row 2, you're going to make the first 3 petals, and then we'll connect the last 3 to previous flowers. So I've made my 3 petals and chain 5, and for the first flower, it is going to connect to the side petal, and then this bottom / top petal that already has a connection, and then the side petal of the second flower beside it. And so 1, 2, 3, those are our 3 points of connection, and we're going to be attaching it to the pink on the second one because it is just a touch closer, and so that's how we're going to do that. So I've chained my 5, and now I'm going to remove my hook, insert it from top to bottom, and finish making my chains. And now I'm going to attach it back to my flower to complete this petal, and I'm going to repeat for my second point of connection. There's my 5 chains, And so I'm just going to connect it into this petal right there. It is going to seem like a big jumbled up mess, but I promise it gets so much easier as you go along and as you get used to it. So I finished that petal and now I'm going to make my last one. As I look at my previous row, lie it down flat. It's basically going exactly where I want it to. It's going to be connected to this free petal off to the side. And I'm just going to continue chaining and finish this petal. And now I'm just going to attach it back to the center to finish it off. That is the first flower of row 2 finished. And the next flower that we make, we're going to connect to the 2 petals that are going to be above it. And then it's going to be connected to this one by default since we're connecting it here. And so this is the 3rd petal that we'll connect it to. And so that gives us our 2 points of connection to the first flower, our 2 points of connection to the second. It's connected to this one through this one. And so this is going to be the 4th petal that we connect it to, and the 2 points of connection with our 3rd flower. And so make your 2 petals and then we will connect it 1, 2, 3, 4. And that will be our 2nd flower done, as well as how we make our 3rd flower. I've made my 2 petals and now I'm going to connect it to this petal right above it that is free right now. My 3rd petal is attached and now I'm going to attach it to the 2nd petal that's right above it. And I'm going to connect it to the petal that is closer to it. Alrighty, I just made my 4th petal, and so the first one is going to be connected to this flower because as we can see, we have 1, 2 points of connection with the one on top, 1, and this will be the 2nd with the one beside it. Here are my 5 petals done, and I'm going to attach my last one to this other side one that is just a free petal right now, and that is where my last one is going. So I have my 2nd point of connection with this flower. Alrighty, and so there's my last petal complete. And so we're going to repeat that again for the very last flower. You're going to make your 2 petals, and then you're going to connect your 3rd one here, and then work counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then our 2nd column is complete. And there is column 2 completed, our 3 little flowers all done. And now let's go to row 3. Row 3 is done the exact same way as row 2, except we're starting with a different number of petals at the beginning for the first one. For the first flower, you're going to crochet 4 petals before we start attaching. So go ahead and do that, and then I will meet you to explain the attaching. Alrighty, I have made my 4 petals and I've started my 5th, and I am going to be attaching it to the 2 free petals of the previous row's flower. And we're going to be mirroring this. And so the first flower is connected to these 2 petals. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, and I'm going to attach them to these 2 petals. So go ahead and do that, and then I will meet you to talk about the last 3 flowers. And so there is my first flower done, connected to the 2 petals. And so for the last 3 flowers of this column, you're going to start it the same as these, where you're going to crochet 2 of the petals, and then you're going to connect it to the previous flowers, starting with this petal. 1, 2, 3, 4 for your total of 6 petals. I misspoke before when I talked about the number of starting petals. Your last one, you are going to start with 3 petals and connect your last 3. And so that is row 3 completed. So now you're just going to repeat row 2 and row 3 until you have 7 rows. And then I'm going to meet you to walk you through connecting these last 3. Alrighty, so take your project, and right now I am looking at it the way that I've been crocheting it. This is technically the front side. So go ahead and flip it over so that we're looking at the back, and then match up the first and last row with the 3rd and 5th, just to fold it over. And so now when we make our flowers, we're going to be connecting every petal to another one, and this is giving us our blueprint of exactly how to do it. So on row 1 and 7, our top flowers, the top 2 petals are going to be free. So these 2 are free, and we're going to be working counterclockwise, connecting every petal to another, starting with this free one on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you're making flower A, go ahead and make the center, and then start working on the petal the exact same way that you've been doing it before. Chain 5, connect back to the center, and keep going. And if you're making flower B, then you're going to start by chaining 6. So here's my 6. This is the very center chain that we'll be slip stitching all of our petals back into. And so these 5 chains are the first 5 chains of my petal, and now I'm just going to go ahead and connect it into this first petal. And I'm just going to connect as normal. And so I'll check back in every time I finish a petal, but I think we know how we're doing it, and so I will see you guys soon. So that is flower 1 completed. This row seems complicated, but it's really easy because you're just following what it looks like right behind you. Flower 2, we know that we're going to be connecting to the 2 petals right above it, and then you're just going to keep following that same formula, you know? So 1, 2, 3. This free one is our 4th one. This free one is our 5th one. And 6. And so I will show you when the flower is complete, because I think at this point we probably have it down pretty well. Alrighty, there is flower 2 all done and connected, and you're just going to do the exact same thing for the last flower. 1, 2, 3, this free one on the side, 4, the other free one, 5, and 6. So go ahead and do that, and then we're going to work on the bottom. So the order that we're going to attach this flower is we're going to do the 2 right above it of the last flower that we just made, 1, 2, and then we're going to take the loose free petal from the front and the back, and we're going to attach it to both at the same time. And then we'll be working on the other side, where we will then attach it to these 2 right above it again. And our last one is going to be the 2 free petals front and back on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, flip it over, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to go ahead and do the first 2 petals, and then I'll pop back in to show you how it looks when we connect it to 2 petals at the same time. So I've just done my 2 petals, and now I'm going to connect it to the front and the back loose petals. And so I want to look at it kind of from a bird's eye point of view. I'm just going to flop the bag down so that these 2 can lie flat. We want to continue going from top to bottom, so go through the first one, and then go through the second, and then find your live loop and pull it through both, and then just complete your petal as normal. And then once you connect it back to your flower, that's when you're going to work on the other side of your bag and connect to those 2 petals, and then you're going to do the same thing for the last petal that we just did for these last 2 free petals. And so now it is time to do the corner flowers. I did the first one because I wanted to kind of show you what it's going to look like. These are the 3 side flowers, and we're going to connect our corner flower to the 2 bottom petals of the last one, and then it is going to be solo connected to a petal, and then on the very bottom, previously we had connected this petal to 2 of them at the same time, and you're going to connect your last 2 petals of the corner to each of those petals. And so looking at the empty side, this is our row of 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, free petal 3, 4, 5, and 6. Because this video is getting pretty long, I don't want to bore you by showing you every single petal, so I'm going to check in with you after every 2 petals. But that is the order I'm doing it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you'll do that on both sides. So I just did the first 2 petals, and now I'm going to do the free one and the first of the 2 that are attached to the one on the bottom. Now I've done those 2, and I'm about to do my last 2. The other one connected to the one on the bottom, and then this free one, and then that's it. Alrighty, and so now it is time for the straps. Each side of the bag is going to have a separate strap. We are going to slip stitch to the first one, chain 45, connected to this one, chain 3, connected to this one, chain 45 again, connect it to the inside free petal, chain 3, and slip stitch back to the first one. It is a super simple handle, and to add a little bit of strength to the strap, we are going to use 2 strands, and so I'm using yarn from the outside and the inside of my skein. If you have 2, you can double it up that way, but so we're going to use both ends of the yarn, make a slip knot, pop it on your hook, and then slip stitch to the right outside petal. And now chain 45. So here is my 45 chains, and I'm going to flip the bag upside down and slip stitch to the free outside petal. And now I'm going to chain 3 and slip stitch to the next outside petal. There it is. Alrighty, and now we're going to chain 45 and go back the other way, but we are going to slip stitch the 23rd, 24th, and 25th stitches together. And so once you get to 23, count on the other side so you can match it up and slip stitch, so that way we can connect the handles like this, just so it's a little bit less messy when you're using it. You don't want 4 loose straps just going everywhere. You're going to chain 22 and then slip stitch 23, 24, 25, and then finish crocheting down to 45. And I still have my bag upside down. There's my 22 stitches, and I'm going to slip stitch into the back loop of the 23rd. And then I'm going to do that again with the 24th and the 25th. And then I'm going to finish up my 45. And so once I do this last one, I'm going to disappear again, and I will meet you to finish up the bottom. And so there is my finished 45, and I'm going to slip stitch into this last free petal. And then I'm going to chain 3. Here's my previous slip stitch. If I look in the back, there's the back bump. I'm going to slip stitch into that spot. And then I'm going to chain 1 and fasten off. And so that is the first strap completed, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then the last step is weaving in our ends. Time to weave in our ends. I'm going to start with the straps first. And so there's 4 ends all next to each other. You're just going to look at it and find the closest loop to all of them, which is this one from our slip stitch. So go into that loop and bring all 4 of the strands through there. I'm going to insert my needle into it again and bring in the last 2. And you are going to continue weaving them through the same loops. The easiest way to do that is we're going to go up through one side of the chain, and we're just going to go from bottom to top through all of them, just doing a really easy in and out weave, just like that. I think I said top to bottom, but I meant bottom to top, going from underneath the stitches to the top. And so you're going to do this twice. It's pretty hard to bring all 4 threads through, and so just do it 2 at a time. There's the first one, and then just stretch it out and do it with the second one. And I'm not a perfectionist, so if I make any little mistakes, I just don't worry about it too much. This is a personal purse just for me. I'm not selling them, so I don't really mind mistakes. The hardest part with this weaving is just not splitting the yarn in half, but I think it's pretty forgiving. I think it's pretty hard to see those mistakes. And so then I'll just trim off the ends and kind of give it a little tug. You might just have to trim it every once in a while. That's the downside for weaving into chains, but pretty good. And so you'll do that for both sides. Next, I'll show you how to weave in flower A's petals, and then I'll show you flower B. For flower A, we are going to do the center first, and these threads are already pretty close together, and so we're just going to take our needle and go through the posts of the single crochet, those 2 little lines. We're just going to go through as many times as possible, bring in both ends of the yarn, and then just weave, weave, weave. Go around a couple times with it, and then cut off the ends. And so that's all that's left. I'll just trim that off. And again, our 2 ends are next to each other, which we love, And we're just going to go through these posts of the slip stitches, these 2 little dashes all the way around until there's just a tiny bit left. And then again, just trim off the excess. And so I'm happy with that, and I'll just trim off the little excess. So that is how we weave in the ends of flower A. Pretty simple. And for flower B, the way that we've been looking at the bag this whole time has been kind of the front, but I personally am not a huge fan of these little dashes made by the slip stitches, and so it's going to be the back. The first step is to find the end that is hidden right now. This is the inside of the bag right now, but it's going to be the front. This end is always going to be in the middle of a petal, and so just push it through that petal so it's on the side that we're working on right now. And so we want to take this end and weave it so it meets this side. We are going to take it through the posts of these. So there are 6 sets of posts that we'll be working through, and you're going to go counterclockwise to meet this other end over here. Go through 3 sets of the posts, weave that end. Now our ends are next to each other, and you're going to go through these 3 sets of posts. So there's the 2 dashes there, 2 dashes there, and the final 2 little dashes. Take both of your ends and weave it through. And now keep continuing to do that until there's just a little bit of ends left that we can trim off. And so that's all that's left. I'll just trim that off as close as I can get. Once you've woven in your ends, if you did flower version A, you obviously know which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. And so that is all finished. If you did flower version B, this is the side that we wove in all of our ends on. And you're just going to flip your bag inside out, which is technically right side out. And so this is a side that we did not touch. We didn't weave in the ends on this side, but I personally think that the flowers look nicer. And so version B, flip that bag inside out once you're done. Make sure the corners are kind of popped out. And that is it. We are all done. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial today. I would love to see your finished products. Feel free to tag me on social media. I'd love to hear what kind of colors you want to go for, which style of flower you're using, what color your base bag is if you were following this 2-in-1 tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!